about what you guys have liked, and I'm going to go over and talk about the steps we've gone through and what we're going to get to. But before we get started, yesterday we had some awesome guests again. We had David Nisha. We had just amazing guests every single day. We've been having so many amazing guests like Krista Casey and everything else. What have you guys liked about yesterday or any of the week? Has anything stood out to you? Anything that you loved? Anything you were amazed at? Anything you learned? Let's go ahead and make sure this is on. Go ahead.
I really love the honesty of when these two people were starving and how their mindset was that just because food was dirty or unclean or came from questionable sources, they didn't want to eat it, or that they were saving things for a rainy day and ended up starving. And so we think that we can eat whatever we want to when we're starving, but we really can't because our body has limitations.
Yep, absolutely.
And our mind has limitations.
You got it. Awesome. That was an amazing one. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, anybody else who can mention? Go ahead.
So I learned from Dave Nisha that someone asked the question, what actually saved your life in all of your excursions? And he said, have a good sleeping bag, good water, regulate your body temperature, meaning cool or heat. And he uses his mind, meaning that he memorizes.
Let's go ahead and switch mics. I think we're having problems with the mic.
Do I need to go do everything
Nope.
again?
No, you just go ahead.
And the last one, he says using his mind, he memorizes poems. And for myself, I do songs, or you could do scriptures, but
Yeah.
part of that mindset.
That's cool. I like how he talked about how to be able to get through that, he lived in the moment, right? Instead of in the future or the past, right? And that's such an important thing to do. Anybody else want to say? Did you go ahead?
So one of the things that I really learned was the food makeup and cooking the ingredients before you prepare them for storage helps eliminate them interacting negative to each other.
Absolutely. And that's such an important thing. If you're going to have a lot of ingredients, somebody came up to me afterwards and said, well, pancake mix doesn't work, right? Can't really store it for long term. I go, you can't. But what if you cooked it? They asked me. I said, well, if you cook it, then all the chemical reactions happen when you cook it, right? Then you can freeze dry it and put it in a can. I mean, it's going to be taking up a lot of space in a can. You could add some extra sugar, make little cookies out of it or something. But that is a way to do it. And it's really important. You'll notice that the cans we do, we keep individual items in each can so we don't mix tastes and chemicals and everything else so it doesn't go bad over time. And that's the right way to do it unless you're going to do a pre-cooked meal, then freeze dry it, which pretty much nobody does except for one or two companies that I know of. And one other thing I failed to mention is one of the things that doesn't happen in the industry, and I didn't talk about this yesterday, is nobody fills up the cans. We do. So a lot of times what happens is the FDA doesn't care about the weight down here as long as we go over it. They don't want us going under it. So if this says 9 ounces and we put 10 ounces in there, we're not going to get in trouble. Does that make sense? So what we do is when we're filling up these cans, I tell my workers, go ahead and fill it up all the way to the top. In fact, in the past, I sometimes probably will still do this, but I used to tell my workers when they weren't filling it up completely to where I wanted it, I said, you guys get to take one case home, and I'm not going to tell you which case. Guess what they did? Yeah, they filled them all up to the very top, right? And so the workers we have right now, they fill it up to the top, and sometimes they're shaking it and filling it. I'm like, guys, we got to move faster. You can't shake it every single time. But that's what we do, and nobody does that in the industry that I know of, where they have the right cans, they have the right foods, the best foods in the market. I mean, we ship from all over the world. If we find something better, like in Chile, we bring our peaches from Chile, or we bring our apples from Washington State. We try to do the best of the best of the best, where it's not feeding the billions in depleted soil and everything else. But we try to do the best, but we fill it up too, and that's really unheard of in the industry. In fact, how many of you have, just out of curiosity, okay, how many of you have ever opened up a can of emergency food and it was probably about right there, okay? How many, look, we got about 10, 12, wow, 12, about 12 people. You know what I'm talking about, right? You shake it and it's like super empty, and we don't play that game. If you're going to be using up space in your basement, you should be filling up your cans, right? Because that's precious space, or under your bed or wherever you're going to put it. Okay, any other ideas? Okay, let's get 2 more people. Go ahead. Put that close to your mouth.
I thought it was interesting to learn that you burn 800 calories just doing nothing.
1,800 calories.
calories just doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then also I was really impressed with
Really close to your mouth.
all the things that you look for when buying wheat.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you said things that I had
I'm a
no idea.
geek.
Yeah.
It's like when I find out more stuff, I implement more stuff. So the more I find, the more I learn. So I love it. Let's go one more. You want one, two? Okay. Okay, let's go one more here.
Very brief. Giving up is permanent. If you quit, it's over.
I love that. Isn't that cool? That's last few days we've had that message, huh? With different stories. So awesome. So we're on day 4. Let's see what the next slide is. Okay, what we're covering this week, we got the normalcy, bias, and risk assessment. If you don't know what you're preparing for, you can't really get prepared. So we talked about how to get prepared the right way by doing the right type of risk assessment and also your mindset. Step 2 talked about sudden emergencies, surviving sudden emergencies. So we talked about kits, we talked about supplies, we talked about plans, implementing, practicing plans and everything. Day 2 also, we talked about emergency water preparedness, the right type of tanks, filters, and everything else. Emergency food was yesterday, and today we're going to be talking about other life-saving needs, okay, like shelter, sanitation. There's so many other communication, protection, everything else. So we're on prep step number 5. Now, the interesting thing is there's a lot of things to cover when it comes to meeting your other needs, okay? Take a look at that list. That's a pretty good list, isn't it? And so when I talk to people, they sit there and say, Marcel, you can't make a course with only 7 steps. It doesn't work. Look at all the other life-saving needs you have, right? And they just go, no, you need to break those out into separate sections. And I say, actually, you don't. And I'm going to show you today why that is. Okay? Are you guys curious? Yeah. Awesome. Okay? So if you look at all these right here, I'm going to ask you a question, first of all, and you'll notice, even before I get to this, do you notice that emergency water and emergency food have a whole separate section just by themselves? Okay? And there's a ton of videos in there to learn a ton of stuff, but they have a section just by themselves. And all of a sudden I get to other needs, right? Meet your other needs, and there's a ton of stuff in here. So I'm going to give you the reason why I put all these things in one group so you understand the mentality of preparedness. Not so much on the survival side, but on the preparedness before something happens. Now, how many of you have been to California? Okay, pretty fun place, right? I grew up about 10 minutes from the beach, 10 minutes from Disneyland. It was a horrible childhood, you know. But we always had to go to Knott's Berry Farm and to Magic Mountain and, you know, look at cute girls at the beach and cook hot dogs and s'mores. And I mean, it was horrible. Horrible. I know, but I survived. I made it through and I'm here today. But the interesting thing is California has wonderful weather. You know, we're battling snow and everything else. But there, I mean, you can be jogging all year round and everything else. You get to Disneyland and it's pretty fun. You take all the kids and just go on every ride you want to. But the interesting thing about living in California is that I was a number in California. I wasn't a name. Okay? So when I was in California growing up there, it's different than here in Utah. You guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll give you an example, okay? I was coming home from the beach one time with my buddies. We were out in the sun all day long. You know how it drains you? And at the end, you're just like, man, I'm so tired. I just want to go home, get showered up, get all the sand off of me and go to bed, right? Exhausted. And we were coming home and we were going over the 45-22 freeway. There's a junction where the two meet. And we were going right over Valley View, over this little hill. And it was just so much traffic and everything else. And when we got up to the top, we're like, man, why is it taking so long? And on the other side was a car at the bottom of the hill that had broken down. All right? And what happened is we kept going, inching up, and we got to that guy, and nobody was helping him. In fact, they were honking and doing, you know, you doing the little salute, right? You know, and everything else. And I'm sitting there thinking, poor guy, you know, if that was us. And so I told my buddies, I said, guys, I know we're tired, but let's pull over and help the guy out. And so we went past him, and I still vividly remember going past him and going into this little business parking lot and parking my car there. And then with all the cars everywhere, we're like running out there, these little teenagers, right? And then we pushed his car out of the way into that parking lot and parked it. And we're like, do you need anything else? And, you know, this is back in the 80s, so there aren't really cell phones or anything else. Right? You can call somebody for help, right? And I just remember he was probably 30-ish, you know. As a kid, everybody looks old, but he was probably 27, 30 or something. He looked very professional, like he was a businessman. And he was ready to cry. He couldn't believe somebody helped him, you know. And he ended up saying this to us. He goes, "Can I pay you guys? Can I please?" I go, "What can I pay you? How much do I owe you?" And I'm sitting there thinking, wow, we didn't expect that. You know, our minds were thinking, yeah, you know, but but we did the honorable thing and we said, no, you just keep it. We're like, boom. And then we took off, right? But we went home. It was interesting. Before we did that, we were all, you know, talking crazy things and everything else. As soon as we got back into the car, it was quiet. So quiet. You know, we had served somebody and, you know, these little teenagers didn't think, wow, that made somebody's life a little bit different, right? And I remember turning to my friends and like, that was cool. We should do that more often. You know, that was really cool, like helping somebody out. But it was so, whoops, no problem. If so the interesting thing about it is in California, that's a little bit different. Here, it's common nature, right? It's everybody is going to help somebody. So what happens, you know, I remember being down in Provo and somebody's car pulls over and about 5 people pull over also, and they're all changing tires and helping them out and pushing the car. You guys know what I'm talking about. That happens out here, okay? But it's totally different in California, okay? If somebody was killed 2 or 3 streets down from my house in California, most people wouldn't even ask the name. They'd say, "Oh, do you know who that is?" "No, I don't either." "Okay, yeah, it's somebody that lives there," right? But we'd talk about, man, yeah, they were killed this way, and they talk about how they died and everything else. And what's interesting, if that happened here in Utah and many places, smaller towns in the United States, what would happen? Everybody knows. They know their name. They take them food, you know, the family food. They pray for them, right? Dinners every night. It's just a whole different story, okay? So I want you guys to put your minds into this mentality of California, okay, just for a little bit. Not saying everybody's bad from California, okay? I came from California and I'm okay. I'm not great, but perfect. You know, I'm sure there are better people, but I try to be good, okay? And Californians, there's a lot of good people there, but I just want you to remember the mentality is you're a number a lot of times, okay? So I want you to put yourself in this situation where there was a 8.0 earthquake. 9.0, let's take it even bigger. Huge earthquake in California, which probably would never happen. But let's just imagine it happened. Okay, the whole place shook up. Okay, the roads were all damaged. No gas, and the gas pumps are gone. Okay, electricity is done for a year or more. Pipes, no running water, nothing. Okay, and imagine in that situation, okay, that every single person in that million person circle, okay, 1 million people cannot get out. There's no way to leave, and they've got to be there for months, okay? But every single person there has 7 days worth of food and 7 days worth of water. Okay, let's imagine that, all right? Nothing more, nothing less. The shelves are empty. Everybody has 7 days of food and 7 days of water, all right? And so that morning, the earthquake happened. During the daytime, the electricity is not coming on. Everybody's saying, hey, it's not coming on for a while. So they grab the food out of the fridges and they try to put them in coolers, put the ice in there, but there's too much food. So they say, hey guys, my house, let's have a barbecue, start eating it up. Let's eat it up. You know, everyone's safe. Yeah, everyone's good. No one's hurt. Okay, we're good. Let's eat up the food. And they're like partying, laughing and everything else because they think help is coming. And then that night, beep, 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 beep on different emergency radios, and a couple cell phones are still working for some reason, right? They hear the news. This is FEMA. We're trying to get some safety in there, but it's too big of a widespread damage. It ruined half the state. There's no way we can get into your area for 3 months. You guys have to survive on your own. Okay? Imagine that. So that night, people start panicking. People crying. You can hear the neighbors crying. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Screaming at her husband. You know, why didn't we save up more food? Why didn't we have more food? I told you we should have done that, blah, 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 right? And then the next morning you hear, and you're like, what's going on? Somebody says, somebody got shot. Okay? And then by that night, there's a couple houses in your neighborhood that are getting burned down because other people from other neighborhoods looted. And they're starting to loot. And then your neighbor pops his head over the next day and says, don't open the door for anyone. Seriously, some cops came to my front door. I looked through the little peephole and they had blood all over. I was worried about them. So I opened up the door and it wasn't cops. They had probably killed the cops. And they tried to get in. Good thing I had my gun on me. Keep your door closed. Don't answer it for anyone. Trust me, don't answer it for anyone. Okay? And you can imagine the tension, right? Now, in that situation, if I were to go door to door and go down to my neighbor 9 houses down that I barely know, because I always come home and drive right into the driveway, go into the garage, door closes, I go eat dinner, watch my favorite show, and then go back to work the next day, and I really don't get to know my neighbors. I go nine doors down and I say, hey, what do you want? Okay, day 4, right? Things are getting pretty tense. Okay? I just want my mom to know I'm okay. I want her to know I'm okay. I heard you have ham radios. I heard you're really good at that stuff. I know how to operate them. Can I borrow one of your ham radios? I'll have it back in an hour. What are you going to tell me? Yeah, get out of here, man. We're all dying. You're not coming to my house, man. I don't even know you. Okay? Now imagine this. I go down 14 houses down around the corner because I heard there's a nurse over there. And I go knock on the door and I say, hey, sorry, man, can you just open it a tiny bit and talk to me, please? Please? Listen, I need a bandage for my daughter. She sprained her ankle. Can I please borrow a bandage? What's going to happen? Yeah. Now you're going to answer the door, right? Okay? Imagine that mentality. People are afraid of everybody at that point. Okay? Now let's flip the scenario a tiny bit, okay? Imagine 1 million people circle, okay, everything's the same, right? Okay, but the big difference now is everybody in that 1 million person circle, okay, has 1 year's worth of food and 1 year's worth of water. Can't get in there for 3 months. You guys are gonna have to survive on your own. All right? Now imagine that. And I go 9 houses down and say, hey, trying to get a hold of my mom. Would you mind if I used your ham radio? Yeah, come on in, let's call her. Okay? Tuk, 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 14 houses around the corner. Okay, pop, pop, pop. Hey, do you have any extra bandages? My daughter sprained her ankle. I don't have anything on me. Yeah, just go ahead and wash it and bring it back if you can. Awesome. Anything I can do for you? No, we're good. Okay? What changed? It's food and water. It's simply food and water. When it comes to preparedness, food and water are the key. If you're in your house, okay, you don't have to worry about heating yourself. You don't have to worry about all the essentials to live at that point because you can create a lot of these essentials. If we were to go back to this right here, most of those things can be jimmy-rigged during an emergency. Or you can find people nearby to help you. That might be nurses, doctors, dentists, whatever else you need, right? If you know your neighbors or you start networking. But food and water are the 2 things that you need mentally to be able to survive in an emotional state that can make you through. Does that make sense? So when people say you need to separate this whole thing into more than 7 steps, there's no way you could do it in 7 steps. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. Food and water get their own sections. These are still needs. Do you see the word needs? It's underlined. It's bolded. You have to have these to live. But these are your other needs besides food and water. Make sense? Okay, do you guys understand why I separated it out into one section? You can become a MacGyver, okay, and you can figure this stuff out if you needed to during an emergency. But if you don't have food and water and there's no way to get it, yeah, nothing else matters. Make sense? When your little kid is starving, and you'll do anything to save that child. And people will do anything to you to save that child. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's keep going. We can go into all of these, and I will be here for literally 15 days, okay? So what I decided to pick one of them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on energy today and talk a little bit about that. There's a whole bunch of different types of energy, and energy is so important. Remember how we talked about before that if you're going to enslave a nation, it's really easy. Enslave them by limiting their food or taking away their food and water, right? Dirtying their water or limiting the food supply, whatever it takes to get food and water down. What was the next ones? Okay, utilities, right? Okay, and cash flow, right? Because cash flow you need for everything else, right? Okay, so when it comes to energy, That's super important for emergencies because you can do so much good with it to be able to survive if you have a source of energy. Now, the thing that all of these have in common is that they will work most of the time, but not all the time. And so typically you want some type of battery backup if you can get it. Some type of source of power that you can either move around or have in place. And so there's a ton of companies out there doing battery backups like these. Does that make sense? And there's a ton of them out there. I'm going to teach you and share with you how to know which ones are good and which ones are bad so you don't get duped. Does that sound fair? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So here goes. This is what you need to know about batteries. Number one, you have to have the right battery technology. Now it's always improving. Things are always getting better. The beautiful thing about it is if there's something better inside my course, I always post the newest thing. So if we go to sodium ion batteries later on or whatever it is, I'll switch out the ones I have and say, these are the latest. These are the best ones. Here's why. Okay, so I always teach people what the best technology is out there, even if it cuts down our margins, which actually the battery unit we're selling right now, I went from a 50% possibility margin from one company down to about a 10% margin for our company, which you can't live on if you're paying for all the lights and everything else and employees. Okay, but because that's what I use for my family, that's what I sell. Does that make sense? Because why would I sell anything else? That would make me a little bit of a hypocrite, right? Why would I give my other people's families something different than mine? So next one is continuous watts versus watt hours. And that's a huge thing to understand. If you get that, you're not going to get duped very easily. And the last thing is all the types of gimmicks like size batching with food and urgency. So let's talk about these a little bit. Lithium ion versus lithium iron phosphate, okay? These are the two that are used the most right now, okay? Lithium ion you have in your cell phones, okay? Your cars have it. If you have an electric car, lithium ion is all over the place. It's lighter, it's more compact, but there's a couple problems with lithium ion, okay? And these are the problems. Number one, it only has about 700 cycles before it actually starts losing. So if you cycle the whole thing down, okay, not just halfway, but if you cycle the whole thing down, around 700 cycles, you're going to lose about 10%. And then it keeps going down. Have you guys ever had a cell phone after a while it just doesn't charge, or it looks like it charges and then it dies within like half an hour? Okay, that's what happens. So it starts losing power over and over. It gets less and less, and then you just don't have the cycles that you need anymore. So you want to limit that if possible. The second thing is lithium ion is dangerous. I mean, look how many reports there are of it catching on fire or something, you know, because somebody did something stupid or stored it in the wrong place or dropped it in the wrong way or whatever, right? Okay. So what happens is we have, I don't know if they're here, but we had a family in one of my presentations. I don't see them. They actually sat there and said, "Can we tell our story?" And I'm like, "Yeah, tell us your story." We bought a lithium ion battery for backup for our emergencies, and it caught on fire. And it burned down our whole house, okay? And the husband says, "Yeah, that was $1 million mistake." but that's one of the people here locally, and they're usually in these classes. And if they were here, I would have them actually come up and tell their story, okay? So that's lithium ion. Now, a better technology, and by the way, lithium ion that's what everybody had. That's what everybody used for the longest time because we didn't have anything better until a few years ago, I would say. But we didn't have anything better. But also when companies have built their battery units, they paid $50,000, $70,000 for a mold. They have all the stocks in their warehouses. They're going to keep selling it till it's gone or they make a new mold. So what if they only have lithium ion? Well, guess what they're going to promote? Lithium ion, right? So the better technology today is called lithium iron with an R, okay, iron. The lithium iron has about 3,500 cycles before it goes down to 90%. Obviously, if you're not, filling it all the way and taking it all the way down to the bottom, you can get like 10,000 uses out of it, right? Before it goes down. But if you're doing a full cycle, it goes to about 3,500 cycles. Does that make sense? And the beautiful part about it is more stable. So you're not worried so much about your whole house catching on fire and losing everything you have, all your supplies and everything else. Now, this is the next thing to understand. It's called, and this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. I just put this together today. So I'm hoping that it's clear. And if it isn't, let me know. Okay, but I wanted to explain the difference between continuous watts and watt hours. I typically do it on the board, on the whiteboard, but right now I'm actually going to do it in this little presentation. So I'm going to make it super easy. First of all, so I know, how many people are super clear on what the difference is between watt and watt hours in here? Okay, I got 1 hand, 2 hands, 3 hands, 4 hands, 5. Okay, I got 5, okay, out of about 50 or so, right? And so about maybe 10%, okay? Now let's, if you understand this right here, this is probably the biggest way that companies dupe you because you don't understand the difference, okay? So this is what it is. Continuous watts is basically the flow. So you have, for example, a garden hose, you're going to get 24 gallons per minute. With a good fire hose, you might get 500 gallons per minute. Does that make sense? So the flow is what we're measuring when it comes to continuous watts. Okay, and the bigger the flow, the more amount of energy can pass through it at one time. Does that make sense? Okay, so if I have a heater and it takes 1,200 watts, that pipe has to be able to handle 1,200 watts at one time, or else the pipe can burst, right? The hose could burst. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, if it's a refrigerator, it's only 200 watts or 500 watts, whatever your fridge is, and you have a hose that can handle 2,000 watts, then you're okay. But if you have a 1,000 watt hose, right? I'm using the word hose, a 1,000 watt hose, but you're using a 1,600 watt oven, for example, it's going to burst the pipe. Okay? So that's called continuous watts. Next one is called watt hours, and watt hours is basically the quantity. How much storage do you have? So you might have 2 gallons versus 10,000 gallons. So I might have, maybe 600 watt hours here, where I might have 2,000 watt hours here. A bigger battery that can hold more wattage. Okay? Now, the reason these are important to understand is because you're going to be able to calculate what you need during an emergency, and a lot of people focus on the continuous watts rather than watt hours. Both are important, but what happens is when companies focus on the first one and you don't see the second one, you think you're getting all this power when your fridge doesn't run very long, and then all of a sudden everything rots inside your fridge. Okay? So for example, everybody know a 100 watt light bulb, right? They used to use them about 15,000 years ago. Okay, now everything's LEDs and who knows what else. But a 100 watt light bulb is what I grew up with. And that was bright. And my mom would say, use the 50 watt, let's save power, right? 75 watt, let's save power, right? Those were still pretty bright. But the 100 watt, 150, those were pretty bright light bulbs. They used up a lot of power. So if you can imagine, now that we learned about continuous watts and watt hours, let me ask you the question. It's 100 watts. Will it go through the pipe okay at 2,200 watts? Yeah, because it's way under 2,200 watts. The water's going to trickle through just easily, right? Now, if we had a battery, or the pool versus, the 2 gallons versus 10,000 gallons, okay, if we had 100 watts being used up at one time, and we had 2,000 watt hours available with our pool of water, or our container of water, okay, your battery has that much power, okay, these are watt hours. That 100 watts equals 100 watt per hour. That's what it means. Oh, you're good. 20 hours. Good job. Are you guys catching this? Man, did I make it easy enough? I was like going, how can I make this easy so people can understand it? Okay, let's try it again. You ready? Now we have 20 bulbs, all right? Then they're 100 watts apiece, all right? Now we come back to this and we have 2,200 watts of continuous power. Is it going to work? Yeah, because it's under the 2,200, right? Okay, but how many hours is it going to run before it runs out? 1 hour. Man, you guys are awesome. Okay, you ready for another one? Okay, here goes. Now we have 24 bulbs, okay, and we have the continuous watts and the watt hours. How long is it going to run for? Why not? Because it's over the continuous watts. It's going to burn it out pretty quickly, right? And so you guys got that exactly right. Man, I was really nervous about this. I was like going, I don't know if they're going to understand it. How many of you guys understood that up to this point? Okay, is it still kind of iffy? Okay, let me give a little bit more then. Ready? Here goes. We have a 600 watt fridge, and I'm going to make it a little more difficult here, okay? This 600 watt fridge, when you start it up, it goes up to 600 watts, okay? So that means if it was a 3,000 watt fridge and you plugged it in and went up to 3,000, that's different, right? It might go over that 2,400 and burn it out. But let's imagine that you plug it in, it goes up to 600 watts. And then it goes down to 200, and 200 becomes kind of the average, 1/3, right? And it just runs on 200 all the time unless you're opening, closing, turning it off all the time and everything else, right? Okay, so at that 200, let's do the math here. We have a 2,200 watt continuous hose. The hoses can handle 2,200 watts at one time. Is it going to handle it? Yeah, because it's way under. It's 600 watts. Okay, but it's using 200 watts per hour, and it has a capacity of 2,000 watts. How long is it going to last? 10 hours. Okay, awesome. You guys got it. Okay, so let's do another one. You ready? Actually, let's talk about this. This is probably a good one. This is what people do in their advertising. They make the 2,200 watts huge. And they say, you're getting 2,200 watts of power. Okay? But then they make the amount of watt hours tiny. Okay? So now you're thinking 2,200 watts, I got a 200 watt fridge. I can run that for 11 hours. And then you get home, and how long can you run it for? 4 hours. So you guys get the idea. 4 hours. And that's a gimmick in our industry. And by the way, I got duped one time by that. I ended up getting $10,000 worth of stuff, bringing it here because they were pushing the amount of watts. And I said, watt hours, right? Yeah, watts. And they just kept saying watts. So I thought they understood. I said watt hours. And so I bought $10,000 worth of stuff. But before I ended up selling it here in the store, I took it home, did a load test. And I was like, this is only like 900 watts. That's it. It died out quickly. There's no 2,000 watts here. And so I couldn't sell it here. So I ended up giving basically at my cost on KSL and just let somebody take it because there's just no way. But I got duped by it. I should have read the fine print. I thought they were telling me the truth at the time. So this is the things that you need to worry about. The size of the unit. One of the reasons I got duped is because they were saying it was a 2,000 watt hour. I thought it was a 2,000 watt hour. And I'm looking at this. This is about a 2,000 watt hour. Okay. Right now, at the time of this video, if you're paying about $1 per watt hour, that's about good. That's a good price. Okay, if you have a quality unit, it's about $1 per watt hour. Okay, that might go up in a month the way inflation's going, right? But this right here is about 2,000 watts. Okay, 2,048. The company that was selling me their unit, which was closer to 800 to 900 watts, their unit was just about as big and just a little bit bigger. So I thought, yeah, that looks like a 2,000 watt. I'm looking at the size. And I didn't think about it that when I picked it up, it was so much lighter than this. But at the time, I was looking at the size of the unit. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's about right. Most of it was air. But they made it look big so people would be duped by it, right? The next thing is bundling with extras. So they'll say, hey, if you buy this today, we'll throw in a month worth of food and 3 months worth of food and blah, 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 blah. Well, if they have that good of value, and they don't have that big of margins, how are they throwing in all this extra stuff, right? I can't. With the values on these things, there's no way I can do it. We have to do group buys, remember? I have to get you guys to pay ahead of time because I can't afford to, my cash flow, it'll be tied up completely with this stuff if I had to buy it all the time, okay? The next thing is this, urgency and scarcity. Have you seen those commercials where people will go, and we only have 200 left, and we've been out for the longest time, and we just finally got them in, and if you buy, we'll buy, throw in food, and blah, 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 right? Well, if they have that few, why are they throwing in all this food and everything else? Don't you think they're going to be bought up that quickly, right? So they use all these little gimmicks. So I wanted to share that with you so you guys are a little bit more aware of it. Today's a little bit different than most days because people have been wanting to know about the 7 prep steps. And so we're going to go into that today, and then we're going to have our VIP session afterwards. So would you guys mind if I do that? Have you guys enjoyed everything so far up to today? Today's Thursday, right? Awesome. It's been really exciting. So A lot of you probably have been feeling like you're drinking from a fire hose. Have any been feeling that, like all the information we've been getting? Yeah, I see a lot of heads nodding. Just so much stuff, right? And you sit there and say, how can I remember all that stuff? Well, obviously in 4 days or 5 days tomorrow, obviously I can't teach you everything I've learned over the last 12 years professionally and the last 20, 30 years doing emergency preparedness survival stuff, right? There's no way. 20,000 hours, how can I do that and put it in your brain, right? We got 2 amazing friends that are here today that are going to come in for the VIP session, James and David, okay? These guys are experts. They're preparedness survival experts. They have their own businesses and everything else. There's no way. I mean, tell me, can you convey your knowledge in 4 to 5 hours? There's no possible way, right? And so what I ended up doing is when I put together my 7 Prep Steps course, I literally took over 3,000 hours to put it together. In fact, let me do this because I thought it was kind of fun. The devil and angel thing on the shoulder. Okay. The problem with getting prepared is the following. First of all, if you don't prepare, how do you feel? Okay. Every time the news scares you, you're like, oh, my family's going to fall apart and we're going to die and everything else, and you start feeling stressed, unsafe, worried, insecure, vulnerable, and everything else. But then you decide to get prepared, and what happens? Okay, isn't that about right? Okay, you start getting prepared, you start feeling overwhelmed, stressed, unmotivated, all the time and money, all the mistakes and everything else. That's where most people are caught. They don't want to do preparedness because it's just too hard. And then you remember at the very beginning, we talked about what you need to be able to succeed. We have simplified training, you have coaching support, and you have lots of shortcuts. You have 2 groups, you have preppers, you have survivalists. Supplies over skills for preppers, skills over supplies for survivalists, right? A lot of people don't want to be preppers because they don't want to be known as hoarders. Well, you don't have to know you don't have to become a hoarder if you know what to buy without going crazy, right? And then you don't have to become a militant or a minimalist either if you just know the right skills. So we talked about rather than having to learn a bow drill fire, let's just go buy some matches. Let's get 80% ready, right? Let's get in here and bring the 2 together. Okay, there's still a ton of things you can learn here. The crazy people sometimes are on the outskirts. I don't associate with that as myself, but I consider myself a prepper and a survivalist. I consider both. Okay, you have to. And the reason for it is because you can have all the supplies in the world, but if your house burns down or everything gets stolen, if you have no skills, you're dead. But on the flip side, if you have no supplies, if you have all the skills, no supplies, and your kids are hungry and everything else, you're going to spend probably, 12? I would say, James, about what? If you have to survive, especially if everyone's going after the same neighborhood dog, right? And trying to feed their family, right? You're probably spending, 12 to 15 hours just trying to get the basics, aren't you?
Plus 3 for each kid.
Yeah, plus times 3 for each kid. You're right. Yeah. So there's no way. I mean, imagine the stress just trying to live every single day, day by day. And if you have the supplies, you can focus on other things like helping people or taking care of wounds or whatever else because you have the supplies, it's less stressful. So the 2 have to come together, okay? Well, what happens is right there in the middle, if you can figure out what supplies do I need without going overboard, what skills do I need without having to spend years and years and years refining it like the experts we've been bringing in, okay? James, you guys have been doing it for what? You've a long time. For ages.
Yeah, for quite a while. I've been doing emergency preparedness stuff since I was a kid.
Yeah, since you were a little kid. And James, I know you and I mean, we possibly go back to early 2000s.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah, and you were doing it before that. You grew up like that.
Yeah, my dad has flint knapping and building.
Flint knapping. I should probably let you talk in the microphone, but yeah.
Yeah, my dad had us doing flint knapping with arrowheads and stuff and building shelters and primitive skills since we were... I think I've even got pictures of in diapers doing...
In diapers, yeah.
Or at least my mom has pictures of me in diapers doing, tanning hides and stuff with my dad when I was a kid.
Yeah, you can go on forever. And the fun thing about it is people ask me, you've been doing this a long time, Marcel, are you learning something? I'm like, every day. Every day I'm learning something new. But if you can get that middle part done right there, you got about 80% of your preparedness done. And you can do that within 30 to 90 days, by the way, if you have somebody telling you what to do. And then you can spend the rest of your life becoming a master thrivalist. So this allows you to become a thrivalist, like my shirt, okay? But if you want to become a master thrivalist, after you get that 80% done, spend the rest of your life doing what we do. And it gets more and more fun. You can go learn how to homestead, and you can make your own soap, and you can whatever you want to do. You can learn that on your own time. But in the meanwhile, go buy soap and store it. Okay? Instead of having to make your own. I'd like to see how you'd make toilet paper. And leaves, yeah. Leaves, exactly. There you are. Okay, let's get into this a little bit more. When I started doing this course and trying to figure out how to simplify it, the reason it's 7 steps is because it didn't start out that way. It started out with a huge, gigantic list, and then I started combining things to see if there's any patterns. And I combined and combined and combined and combined, and after a while, I'm like, I see a pattern. And that's where the food and the water started separating out. And everything else started fitting in different buckets. And I was like going, oh my goodness, this is in order, okay, of priority. With the sudden emergency preparedness, everything you need to do to be able to handle a sudden emergency in a crisis, right? To food, water, everything else. It's all in order. Now, the interesting thing is 4 of the steps cover almost every emergency preparedness course out there. I added 3 more and still kept it in 7. Because tomorrow you're going to start learning about the maintain your standard of living, which most people don't talk about, by the way. I lived in Brazil for during 30,000% inflation in 1 year, and I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. Okay, and what I learned, because I think our country is probably headed towards that. I think we're headed towards some inflation, food shortages, and a whole bunch of crazy things. A lot of people don't want to believe it, but I've seen it. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about that. But also helping others prepare. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. We're going to have some amazing guests tomorrow talking about that as well. Plus a silver gold expert. He does many 7 figures a year. He does pretty well, and he's going to be speaking to us tomorrow and helping us understand how to hedge inflation. And I'll share a couple of experiences with that. But with all this stuff that we did with the 7 steps, it took me forever to keep combining. And then once I combined it, put it in buckets, the harder part was doing what you're seeing on the screen right here, okay? Have you heard of the famous writer who wrote his friend and said, sorry for the long letter, if I had more time it would have been shorter? Okay, that's the idea. It's really easy to put out a 2,000-page book, right? It's really easy to put out 1,000 hours of video, right? It's really hard to put out a 150-page book and just a couple hundred hours of video and not lose any information. And then make it so simple when people go to it that they think, I already knew this, but they didn't. You see what I'm talking about? Because all of a sudden it just makes sense, as if you've always known it, but you didn't, okay? That's the art of it. The course that I put together took over 3,000 hours. I'm about to redo it, and you guys get all the updates. Anybody who's a member already gets all the updates. That's the beautiful part about being a lifetime member of the course, is that every time we find something better, and every time we learn something new, we update it, and you guys get it, and you get to learn more things. So that's what it is. So here's what the 7 steps can do for you. Fast track your preparedness from years to months, literally. Okay, save you the anxiety of thousands of hours of research. And by the way, James and I were talking earlier today, and we have a lot of our friends like Dave Nisha and everybody else. And Dave was awesome yesterday. He goes, Marcelo, we were talking over there, and he goes, I'm just excited about what you're doing. It was just amazing. And he did this. He goes, my hands are tingling. They haven't tingled in years, you know. and I said, Dave, you need to be part of our movement. We're trying to help 10,000 families get prepared. And the cool thing about it, with all the knowledge that we have between all of us, right, Dave and Tyler and everybody else, we have some of the best of the best of the best here in Utah, okay, that are preppers and survivalists, both, okay. And all of them, we've been talking about creating courses beyond the regular thrivalist, so that you can actually learn how to, learn horticulture, or you can learn how to, what else? And what are some fun things we would do? Like what are some fun communications? Okay, yeah. We do teach all about ham radios. That would be a fun one, because you're really good at that, yeah. Right? And what are some of the 2 or 3 other ones that would be fun?
Gosh, medical has to rank high. Medical has to rank high. Personal security. Yeah. Is one of the first things that get you killed. So just and you've been trained by the best in safety, security, guns, and everything. Yeah. Actually, both of you guys. Yeah. Yep. And so there's so many things we can teach. And so the idea is, once we get people past the thrivalist, I'm going to be working with these guys to be able to create other courses that people can take and be able to hone different skills if you want to. You don't have to. But that middle part is what we're focusing on. That's where we want to get people to 80%. So a lot of people are busy with their families and their work and everything else.
So saves you thousands of hours of research. You get to get the latest up-to-date information, save you thousands of dollars in mistakes. And that's one of the things when I speak at the main stages here in the conferences, I can't tell you how many times I teach somebody and then you have people coming up with drooping faces. And they said, I just spent $3,000 to $5,000 on the wrong food, or I just got the wrong filters, or I just got this, or I got that. And they come up to me and a lot of them say, I can't get my money back. I don't even know how to get more food now. Okay. And my heart sinks when I hear that because they fell for some pretty shady marketing, right? And that was shady, not a bad word, okay, with an A, okay? And that's protect your family sooner than rather too late. Give you confidence, security, and peace of mind today. And just to give you a feel, I'm going to just, these are some of my customers. Clint, it saved him 20 years of research and thousands of dollars. Giselle, she said, I felt overwhelmed and I didn't know where to start. This is Nicole. The desire was there, but it seemed like a daunting task. And she goes, your program goes through everything step by step, little by little, and it's such an organized process. We have Bob Cattell. If you're familiar with him, he is a celebrity. There's only about probably a dozen people in this world who have spoken to over 10 million people as a motivational speaker. He's one of them. And I had the chance to help him get prepared. And he talked about how he learned more in 2 hours with me than years of trying to learn it from other people in seminars. John B., this is another one. He's a big survivalist. And he talks about how it's easy to understand and comprehensive. Jack Jobe, if you're familiar with him, he's one of my clients from Extreme Preppers. Is that the name of it? It was something Preppers. Doomsday Preppers. Was it Doomsday Preppers? So he ended up getting my course. And he talks about how the investment was well spent. I taught him a few things in the course, and he called me up and he said, that's brilliant. I never thought of that. And I've been doing this for years. And it was pretty fun to actually hear from him. Now, I'm going to show you guys what the 7 Prep Steps course looks like. Okay, and I'll be redoing it even better. I mean, it's amazing right now, but my next goal after this filming is actually to improve it even better and simplify it and even better. So you guys are getting amazing course material right now, and you can start today and get it done, but you're just going to see it even get more amazing with some of my friends and everything else. So I'm going to show you guys. I'll actually go in here. Let me end this, and let's see if I can figure out how to do this. There's the cursor, there's that. This is the 7 steps. You can see it inside here. And when you come in here, you're going to see that there's all these options. You got the coaching program. Now the coaching program is pretty awesome because what we're doing is we're actually making it so that if anybody wants coaching and they pay for coaching, that coaching gets equated to discounted product. So if you pay $5,000 for coaching, you get $5,000 worth of product. Does that make sense? Nobody's doing that in the industry. Okay? So it actually helps my workers out that are amazing, and they work with people all day long because now they get a little bit of commission from that I give them. Okay, it helps us out because we get to sell product. Helps you guys out because you get coaching for the exact same product, and you get discounts on the product, so you save a ton of money on products you normally have to buy anyways for preparedness. And so that's the coaching. We have the store where I'm going to show that to you in just a minute so you can see the discounts on there. We have the referral programs. There's a lot of people who come up to us and say, man, I would love to do preparedness, but we don't have the money. And so I set up a program. So all you have to do is send out a link to this 5-day challenge, okay, that we're doing. And if anybody purchases it, you get a pretty good commission from it. And now you can take that money and either take it in cash or you can take it and buy product with it. So we're making it really easy for any family to be able to do it. Even if there's one of the things I got mentored by with my mentors, because I got mentored by billionaires and 100 millionaires and everything else in business with my background doing entrepreneurship since I was 15, literally about 40 years. Okay. So with that, one of my mentors, several of my mentors, but one in particular told me, you don't have, when I was sitting there going, I don't have the money, he said, baloney. You don't have the resources. I said, what do you mean by that? He goes, people say they don't have the money. They don't have the resources. Or they procrastinate, or they find excuses. They go spend it on a whole bunch of stuff they don't need to spend it on rather than preparedness. But if you have the resources, you can have the money. And since he told me that, every time I'm building a venture and I don't have the money, I'm like, no, I don't have the resources. So I call up a friend and say, hey, can I get a loan and can we do some type of hard money lending and I'll pay you back in 3 months. Or whatever resource it is. I'm giving you guys a resource here. I'm giving you a resource to be able to put it on social media, spread it to other people, get money from it, and then be able to buy whatever you need to. Excuses are useless. I said that earlier in the week, right? So the next one is private group support. So you can go to our Facebook group, and you'll be able to talk to people anytime you want to. Now, let me just scroll down here, and I'll show you the program. So you notice right here, we have a whole mindset section to start out with, because if your mind isn't right, you're not going to ever get prepared the right way. We go into what the right mindset is. Then we get into risk assessment. Do you remember how we went into all these different risks before? I mean, you know, you click on one of these, for example, let's go fires, okay? And, oops, let me click on it. Did I click on it? Is the internet going? I might not be connected to the internet. If I lose this, I apologize ahead of time because, oh, it did work. Yay. Okay. So anyways, you'll notice in here, when you're doing your risk assessment, people can literally spend about 50 hours going through a risk assessment trying to figure out. I actually went through and I did the research for you. So you see this is a 30-minute video that talks about fires. So now you watch a 30-minute video, you just got 80% of your work done in 30 minutes rather than weeks and weeks and weeks of research. And then if you want to go deeper, you just go down and you have video after video after video after video to go into whatever subject you want to go deeper into. I put it all here for you to use, okay? So you can go into anything and everything you want to learn. If you want to learn about laundry fires, if you want to learn about arson or whatever you want to learn about, you can learn about whatever you feel like you need to learn about for your family. Sit down with your kids and show them, right? Now, 20% is up to you because I don't live where you live, okay? I don't live in the same city a lot of times, right? And so you might have to call your school board. You might have to talk to your, your state, find out what are they doing for earthquakes or hurricanes or tornadoes. You need to find out what your local area does. But 80% of the work is done for you ahead of time. And that has to do with the risk assessment, okay? Then we go into the sudden emergency preparedness, where this says 72-hour kits. We're changing that to grab-and-go kits, and that's being rewritten right now because it used to start out with 3 days, and people have gone to 4 days and 5 days, so there's 96 and 120. When people ask me, well, you should be doing 5 days because that's what FEMA says, I go, baloney. 3 days, if 3 days is what you can do 3 days. Something's better than nothing, right? And if you have a smaller kit, but you have the backups like I showed you the other day where I bring in my water and my food and throw it in my car if I can leave, do it. Some people can't carry, 5 million gallons of water, right? Okay, so you gotta think, what are my needs? Say again? Oh. Yeah. Some people can't carry 5 million gallons. No. Yeah, most people can't carry 5 million gallons, right? Now there's a few exceptions. I wish it were me. But anyways, let's go through this. We teach people how the emergency plans. Remember I was telling you about the different plans you need? Let's go to create your emergency plans. I go through the 10 steps of creating your emergency plans, and I teach people those 10 steps. So inside here, you're going to get everything you need to, all the resources you need to inside here. We go into sudden emergency, water preparedness. We teach you how much water you need, picking the right containers, how to store your water, collecting additional water, filtering and purifying your water, personal water preparedness, all that stuff. You go through that. Food goes through short-term food, long-term food replenishment, preparation, preservation. You guys get the idea. Meeting your other needs. We get into all these different other needs. Maintaining your standard of living, helping others. And down here, I'm going to get back to this later, but usually once or twice a month, we bring in a speaker like the ones you've seen this week, and we'll do a class usually about 2 hours long on a certain subject where we get deep. That's called the Prep Steps University. And that's what I throw in as part of the membership. That thing right there is invaluable. I mean, you'd have to pay these people a couple $100 just to listen to them normally, and they're coming in and teaching us, and it's just pretty awesome. Okay, so this is the background. Let me go back to the PowerPoint here, and I'll explain a little bit more about how this works. Let's go in here and see if I click this right. There, awesome. Okay, so this is the 7 Prep Steps Master Course. Bunch more testimonials. 72-hour. She had to redo her kits, and I showed her how to do it right. Sherilyn was awesome. I actually talked to her, and she talked about how she was about to give up until she got to the course. A. Todd, he was wanting to help his family, but they didn't want to get prepared, and he did. And so he said, can I just show them the course? And I said, absolutely, just pay me later if you need to. And I actually reached out to him, let him borrow it to show his family. Then he came back and said, oh, they love it. And he was all excited, right? And so 7 prep steps is so helpful. And then we get to what we've been talking about here. These are the things that come with the 7 prep steps, okay? And that's a $2,997 value. Obviously, I'm not going to charge you that. I'm going to give you guys a deal, right? But let's talk a little bit about it. You also get some bonuses. Remember I was telling you about the discounts you get on the website? So as members, we give people discounts, usually between 5 and 50% depending on the product. I don't have one of the survival tabs here, but the survival tabs, for example, those sell for $45 on Amazon. Guess how much our members get to pay for them? $24.95, $25, yeah. Okay. So we try to do everything we can to still stay in business, but give our members really great deals. The goal for us giving this discount membership is to be able to save you thousands of dollars in the end when you're getting prepared. Because if you're going to get prepared, you have to buy stuff. Sorry. But if you're going to buy stuff, buy the right stuff. Buy once, cry once, right? Get it done. And don't have to buy over and over and over because you get the wrong stuff, right? But we're going to help you save money in the process while you do it. And our goal is to pay back everything you paid in your membership. You get the money back. In fact, some of you guys are members in here, aren't you? Would you say you guys have paid back your membership already? How many hands? Just out of curiosity. Well, that's about half. Just by buying products at discounts. Okay? So that right there is getting thrown in. I'm doing the private group so that you can get support and be able to talk to other members. So you're going to get a Facebook group that you can join. It's a private group. You're also going to get what's called the Prep Steps University, which is what I was talking about, where we bring in speakers, and you get that for a whole 12 months. I'll probably let people keep going, but you never know when the end of the world's going to come, so I say 12 months at a time, so that at least I can under-promise, over-deliver. So if the end of the world happens in 12 months, at least you got 12 months, right? And so I say 12 months. But more than likely, I'll let people just stay on it for life until we can't do it anymore if things get really that bad. Okay. Also, you get the 7 Prep Steps workbook. This is a $50 workbook. We throw in it for free with shipping and handling. So you get this in the mail. And this actually, while you're going through the video course, you fill this out and you finish all the pages. Even if you can't afford to buy everything today, you finish all your plans. And then as you can buy stuff, you buy it. But you get all your plans done and put it in all the note sheets in here and all the checkoff lists and everything that's on here. I mean, it's very comprehensive. And this goes along with the videos. You get that $50 plus shipping, so it's $59 total. You get that as part of the course, okay? And you get a 100% 30-day money-back guarantee. So that makes it a no-brainer. So this is what you get right here. Bonus, all these bonuses right there, okay? So we're up to $8,079 of value. Okay, and a no-risk guarantee, and you get the peace of mind knowing that your family is prepared, which is priceless. Okay, so here's a question for you. If you had to spend $8,000, okay, and it literally saved you 3 years worth of research, thousands and thousands of hours. I don't know what your money is worth or what your time is worth, but it saved you in 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 hours or whatever of research to be able to get it right the first time. Would it be worth $8,000? Obviously, especially if an emergency happened in 4 months from now and you were prepared in 3, instead of 3 years from now when it's way too late. Okay. Now another question: if it saved you $10,000 to $15,000 in stupid mistakes that people make when they're getting prepared, and I'm not saying that you're going to spend $50 million, right? What I'm saying is $10,000 to $12,000 if you're going to spend that and you get the wrong stuff. You won't find out sometimes till an emergency. And then you find out that your stuff didn't work like like you thought it would. If you saved yourself $10,000 to $12,000 worth of dumb mistakes, would it be worth $8,000? Okay, obviously, yeah, right? Another question is, if it saves one life, is it worth $8,000? And the answer is yes. Okay, so with the 7 prep steps, with the 7 steps of preparedness, I had to figure out, what do I do to price this out the right way? If I charge $25, there's a problem with that. First problem is nobody would value it, nobody would do it. The second thing is we'd be out of business pretty quickly and we wouldn't be able to help people in the long run. If we charge $8,000 or more, There would be some people that would do it, but very few people would be able to afford it. Now, if they paid $8,000, do you think they would get it done? Absolutely, they would value it, right? So we're trying to figure out where do we price it where we don't go out of business, and also where do we price it where it hurts a little bit. You know, it hurts enough to get people motivated. Okay, so that's where we came up with the $997 price, because it hurts. But there's a caveat. You ready for the caveat? Have any of you ever paid for a gym membership? Yeah? What's the problem with gym memberships? You got to go, right? And so what happens is people end up paying for a gym membership, and the hardest part about the gym membership is on a cold day after you just paid for it, January 1st, you're lazy, you're just overweight, you know you got to get up, you know you paid for it, and you get off the bed, and then you sit there and say, yeah, I'm just going to get back in bed just a little bit longer, right? And the hardest part after getting out of bed is putting your shoes on. Next part is getting out the door, and getting in the car, right? And then driving to the gym, and then sitting down on the bench machine. That's the hardest part. If you could just get in there and start working out and just do it for a little while, you get used to it, right? How many of you guys know course junkies? I've been one, you know, where you buy every course in the world and you really have the best intentions. I guarantee you there's a bunch of people who would pay $997 and do nothing about it. A week will go by and they're like, oh man, you know, I don't have time right now. 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then they're like, I don't have time. I'll do it later. And then a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? Until it's too late. So here's the caveat. If you pay through this course, through the challenge, okay, through what we're doing here right now, okay, if you paid $997, all right, within 14 days, if you go into the course, okay, you're not getting this offer outside of this. Within 14 days, if you go into the course and you finish the introduction, an hour, maybe 2 hours worth of work, okay, 1 hour, 2 hours. If you get into the introduction, you're going to see how easy it is to get through it, because you get to pick and choose the stuff you need to get through it. You literally can get through the course in 1 week if you needed to, okay? 1 month would be, pretty comfortable. 3 months, easy. Okay, you can get through this course pretty quickly, but the hardest part is starting. Yeah, you're right, starting. But you'll notice these little Thrivalist shirts, okay? There's a few other things I want to do, but I'd rather underpromise and over-deliver. If you can get in there within 14 days of purchasing the course and you finish the introduction, we send out a t-shirt for free to you, okay? So that's the goal. It's a little tiny carrot, but what we're trying to do is we're not just trying to sell 10,000 courses, we're trying to get 10,000 families prepared. And so we're trying to figure out little ways of doing that, okay? So the other thing is this. It's not just good enough to start the course and finish the introduction. If you finish the course within 90 days, not meaning you buy everything, it just means you finish the course within 90 days, you have your plan done, you get through the last step, 7th step, you got your workbook filled out as much as you need to. If you finish it within 90 days, okay, and we can see your progress online, by the way, okay? If you get it done within 90 days and you write us, then you become officially a Thrivalist. And what I'll actually do is give you over $1,000 worth of product for free. You get your money right back. And you get to keep the course for life. And all the discounts. And all the extra classes. And support and coaching if you want that. You get all that stuff for life. Okay? This was a win-win, because now all of a sudden we're thinking as our workers, we're trying to figure out how do we help 10,000 families. People won't pay $997 unless there's something in it for them. But then we'll go out of business if we just give all the money back. So this gives us enough margins to have a couple $100s left over, because we get to buy the products cheaper, right? And with that couple $100s, we can stay in business and hopefully earn your business. So over time, we can actually service you with products and services and everything else to help your family and your friends' families and other families over time. Is that pretty fun? So this is what you get. All this stuff, Act Now bonus, $997. And you have two options at this point. You can take everything I've taught you this week, okay, and you can just go do it on your own. I mean, that's what I did over the last 12 years. Right? I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars learning what I learned, okay? Made a ton of mistakes, okay? But you could do that if you really want to. I'll tell you what I prefer, okay, personally, is if I have somebody I can learn from, like I learn from my friends all the time. I go to these guys and to Dave and Nisha and all these other guys, all my good friends, and I just say, hey, I'm stuck. Can you teach me? And I'm able to excel my learning that much quicker because I actually leaned on somebody who knew something I didn't know. And to me, if you want to save the time and you want to use a 30-day money-back guarantee where it's actually no-brainer, try the course. See if it helps you. If it stinks, get your money back. But give it a try. See if it helps your family out. Have your family sit around. Do it. Just try it. And so that's your two options. So I'll go through a couple more testimonials so you guys can see it actually helps people. Okay. Here's Amy. This program was the first ever to answer my questions. She was so excited. She kept reaching out to us. I can't believe this. I've always asked people. Nobody's ever been able to answer this question. You guys answered it. She was so excited. James M., let's see. This course shows you what prepared looks like. John M., Marcel helped me save thousands in food storage. David and Tracy, they actually come here once in a while. They're local. Have you guys seen them around? Do you guys know who they are? Okay, they come once in a while here. And saved a lot of time, effort, and money. The information is priceless. Donald, the first time we feel prepared for whatever comes. Jeannie Dayton, who you guys know, I learned things I had not even considered before. She's going to be speaking on Saturday. Okay, and she's a pro, by the way, and she learned amazing things. Christine F., very easy to use while extraordinarily effective. Brett C., you saved us from some costly mistakes. This is Krista, who spoke yesterday. Even before she started coming here and hanging out, I was working with her, and she says, Marcel digs deep to provide great solutions to his clients. Skylar, who is a pro out in the industry, he called me up because he was trying to figure out how to make his company work better. And he goes, I just don't know what to do. So I mentored him and helped him out. And he wrote me and talked about how Marcel helped him. And that's it, you guys. So anyways, you have homework for tonight. If the 7 Prep Steps program works for you, I would click on it and do it. I wouldn't waste any time. And we're going to take about a 5-minute break. And we're going to come back and continue with our VIP session. So was that fun? Was that good? Did you guys enjoy that? Awesome. Good. Thank you for letting me take time and talk about the course that will be able to help out 10,000 families this year. That's what we're working on. Let's take a quick break and be back here in about 5 minutes for our VIP session.